Good morning. Working with various kinds of public, the first lesson I learned is that diversity is a precious wealth to be valorized and preserved. Unfortunately, in daily life, different barriers ranging from physical to behavioral ones could affect a real accessibility to contents and methods we propose in our activities. In order to face this kind of problem, my institute, the Italian Istituto Nazionale di Astrofisica, recently created a national inclusion working group and started several projects in different areas of intervention, exploiting different methods and languages. The work I'm presenting today is part of these activities, and it is related to people with autism spectrum disorder. First of all, what we call autism? Autism spectrum disorder, ASD, is a complex developmental condition that affects communication and behavior. It involves persistent challenges in social interaction, speech, and nonverbal communication, and restricted repetitive behaviors. Autism is known as a spectrum disorder because there is a wide variation in type and severity of symptoms, which are different in each person. The learning, thinking, and problem-solving abilities of people with ASD can range from gifted to severely challenged. Recent statistics show that as ASD is a very common problem. Almost 1 to 2% of world population is affected by ASD. So it's a problem we need to learn to face with. When working with people with ASD, in order to avoid misconception and prejudice, we should keep in mind some things. It is important to know that ASD has a neurobiological origin. It is not a disease and does not pass with age. Relating to an ASD child, love and devotion are not enough. You need to benefit by specific skills and support networks. Moreover, educational strategies adopted for children with ASD often prove useful also with other classmates. Finally, people with ASD experience many emotions, even if it could be difficult for them to express. Remember, they are not locked in a bubble, and however, sometimes they need to minimize sensory input. This is the reason why a planetarium can be very challenging, unfamiliar, and sometimes even overstimulating environment for visitors with ASD. They are closed and dark places, use a lot of wow effect and loud voices and hyper-realistic and immersive simulation. Moreover, usually there are strict house rules. Silence required, no movements, no light, etc. Consequently, often people with ASD experience some problems and fear or do not assist at all to planetarium shows. There are no easy solutions to this problem. In some cases, some shows specifically designed for ASD audience have been performed. This is a good possibility, but it's not enough. So we are working to allow the most comfortable experience possible, creating checklists, questionnaires on perceptual aspects to be considered before the visit, and finally exploiting the use of social stories. Social stories are particular text accompanied by images and written according to specific criteria. They clearly, concisely, and precisely describe a situation, a skill, or a concept. The goal of social stories is not to change the individual behavior or to create a not to do list. They are instead a helping tool to improve on the understanding of social work, making explicit some implicit social information. Presented by Terrell Gray in 1991, they are an evidence-based strategy to work with the children, kids, and young adults with different levels of ASD. Anyone can write social stories, but in order to be really effective, they have to respect some general rules, styles, and format. They must be simple and relatively short, well structured with a title, introduction, body, and conclusion. They are generally written in first person, use accurate, precise, positive languages and reassuring sentences, avoiding metaphoric language and way of saying, and use illustration or other visual references depending on the recipient's skills. Even if you can produce a sort of basic template, and indeed we are working on this, social stories should be always personalized and hence created in a collaborative project between educators, parents, therapists, and obviously, if possible, recipients. Social stories present different types of sentences with a strict rule of usage. Here I report the type of sentences and the preliminary draft of the social story for the Cagliari Observatory Planetarium. Descriptive sentences describe factual set statements and answer the common question what, when, where, etc. So planetarium is a closed and dark large room inside the building and so on. Perspective sentences describe reactions, feelings, and responses of others. Many people like the dark. To other people, the dark is scary. Directive sentences identify appropriate response behavior. It is a good idea to pee before the show starts. Finally, cooperative sentences identify what other will do to assist. If I feel uncomfortable, I raise my hand and an educator approaches me and walks me out. In conclusion, it is very important to consider ASD audience when designing activities of any kind. Unfortunately, there are no simple, easy, generic, or universal solutions. Each child with autism spectrum disorder is a unique world to discover, because autistic children simply do not exist. There are Anna, Michael, Jerome, etc. So in order to make them feel comfortable, try to understand their particular neurodiverse functioning and help them to understand your neurotypical functioning. If you look at them as children and not as autistic children, they can offer you a lot of satisfaction, even at the planetarium. It could be difficult, but it's worth it. Thank you so much.